What's a good example of being irresponsible that most people don't realize is irresponsible? Getting a pet that you don't have time, money to properly take care of. I want a dog badly, but it wouldn't be fair to the dog as I'm never home. Used to have upstairs neighbors who were both culinary students regularly putting in 16-hour days. Didn't stop them from getting a 6-month-old German Shepherd. My roommate and I offered to help with walks, mainly because our house was poorly insulated, and whenever the dog peed in their living room, which was constantly, it leaked down onto our kitchen floor. They refused our offer. Flushing your dental floss down the toilet when you're done. I've had a few reasonably intelligent friends do this, but one pricey visit from a plumber usually stops that habit. I didn't know this clogged the toilet, but I also didn't know anyone flushed their dental floss. Yay for floss pics. Dumping liquid grease from fry pans and cookware directly down the drain when washing dishes and then wondering why the plumbing gets backed up. Fellow idiot reporting for duty. I once got so mad because I had to get a plumber to come out to fix my drain, couldn't figure out for the life of me what I had done that caused water to pool. After 5 minutes he came to me. Did you pour anything large down the drain? No. Did you pour anything non-food related down the drain? No. Are you sure? He then pulled out a handful of rocks. I had literally put rocks down my drain. It was from when I was cleaning out my fish tank. Not watching your kids all the time when they are in public place. I have cleaned up a fair share of dead kids on the street, so please for the love of God keep a freaking eye on them. Do not expect a 7-year-old to understand what is the danger of running into a busy highway. I have seen no less than 10 got their lives ended under 18-wheelers. Pets too. I once witnessed a dog bounce around the undercarriage of a pickup truck because the owner just let it run around wherever it felt like, including the road. It was an old lady, and she's sobbing, "I told you to stay out of the road, lady." The dog doesn't know where the yard ends and the road begins. Not cleaning up after yourself. Small things like why do you never throw the loo roll? Why do you leave your nail clippings all over the place? Did you really just knock that bunch of stuff on the floor and look away from it? God, it's all the small things that drive me nuts. You need a new roommate. So many pet owners accidentally doing stuff that's bad for pets without realizing. Giving dogs grapes, giving ducks bread, keeping lilies near cats, etc. Everyone knows it's ducks that like grapes anyway. Unprotected sex. Even with birth control becoming more common and attitudes on casual sex being more open, it's still important to use protection. You can bend the rules a little bit once you are with a more exclusive partner and you have built trust. Until then, use protection every time. Yet, it always blows my mind that women who are on birth control will have casual sex without a condom. Like, don't they know BC only stops pregnancy? Double surprised when men do it. Like, you don't know this girl. She says she's on birth control. She might even take a tablet in front of you, but there's no guarantee that she's actually taking it. And even if she is, wouldn't you want that extra layer of protection? And that's before we even think about stees. When one credit card is maxed out, the solution is not to get another credit card. But I know several people with 5+ cards and they're always shuffling through them to see which one will go through. Sounds like a great recipe for nightly anxiety dreams. Not using your turn signal. I know you are secretive and don't want to tell me if you are turning here, but that information is really nice to know. A couple of months ago I was crossing the road at a quiet intersection as 2 cars were approaching. Neither were indicating, so I assumed that they were going straight on and started to cross. The prick in the second car turned without indicating onto the road I was crossing and had the audacity to honk his horn at me. The entire situation could have been avoided if he'd bothered to let the people around him know where he was going. Parents who change their baby in the car and leave the dirty diaper on the ground. I see it all the time. This translates to, I'm not taking responsibility for the literal crap my child makes, let alone all the figurative crap they'll get up to. Someone else will do it. Parents like that should be sterilized. It's the clearest sign of not being responsible enough to have children. When my son was little, changing diapers in the car was just part of everyday life. I carried around a roll of bags similar to ones you'd pick up dog poop with and seal them in there until I could get to a garbage can. It's really not hard. Starting a family because you've been on a relationship for a while. You're at that age. If you are planning on having a family with your partner, make sure you are well acquainted with their bad side, and vice versa. Children deserve parents who are emotionally mature and responsible. The highs of budding love and societal pressure can blind people to their partner's problem. Once you've both learned how to resolve issues and work on the personal flaws you probably never knew you had, then you should have kids. Having children only magnifies your personal flaws and relationship problems you try to sweep under the rug. It boggles my mind when people get married quick and young and then get pregnant as fast as possible. I know so many Mormon friends and family that got married after only knowing their partner for 6 months or less, and then got pregnant during the honeymoon. Rushing through it is not a good recipe for building a solid relationship and family foundation. I have a co-worker who calls out sick whenever someone returns on vacation, out of spite for having to do extra work. 6 people have approached my boss about it and this jack-off still clocks in. Great example. My wife has a co-worker who requested a day off a few times, which was declined because too many others had already requested the same day off before. Then she called in sick for that day, several times. Not busting your fast food tray. I've never worked fast food or anything like that. It's just so rude. Grow up. Clean up your mess. Don't be a dong. Even if you're well intentioned, stubbornness and abrasiveness will not get you anywhere. It just makes people think you're a mess. I am both. Never mean to be and never set out to be. I assure you when I catch myself I try to be less of both. It's in my nature. I grew up around violence and sometimes the only way to get somewhere with people is to be a freaking cutthroat. Giving up all the things that make you happy when you have children. Your children will grow up thinking unhappy and boring is the norm, and won't have a real happy positive role model. Not caring at all about your children yelling for hours in public places, especially places where you just can't move or waiting for something. Spending money on things you want instead of need. This is fine most of the time, but it's irresponsible when you don't have the money for both. Those dang balloon releases. Tommy died, so let's release 100 balloons for Tommy. No, you are littering and harming wildlife. If you want to celebrate Tommy's life, light a candle or blow some bubbles. People impeding traffic in the left lane on the highway. You're forcing everyone else to adjust to you. Forcing faster traffic to change lanes into a slower lane to get around you and then to change lanes again once they've passed, all because you are being selfish and irresponsible. Where I live, it's not just irresponsible, it's a $136 ticket, which most people haven't got a clue is something you can and should be ticketed for. People do this in front of cops where I'm from, and I've never seen anyone get pulled. I mention in front of cops because I know several times I've seen it. The logic there is there's a cop behind me, I better stick at the speed limit, and then they're riding next to the dude in the right lane while blocking traffic. Slow down and move over. The cop must think they're doing something wrong. Speed up and for sure they are getting pulled. So yeah, of course causing a traffic jam is the logical thing to do. It pisses me off that no Leos seem to care. Smartphone use on the highway. Plenty people seem to brush it off, as I am positive I am paying enough attention to the road to responsibly use my email, texting, social media apps while going at deadly speeds on a busy highway, and the swerving doesn't happen that often to me. If I had a penny for every smartphone user I overtake because I thought it was a dangerous swerving drunk, texting and driving at all. My ex-GF would always text and drive while I was in the car. I asked if she could put her phone down and got freaking wailed at for suggesting she was not a good enough driver to text and drive at the same time. This was after she blew a stop sign. This opinion is probably not going to be popular with everyone, but I've never understood how a young woman keeping a baby she can't afford or possibly hope to take care of is lauded as being responsible, whereas getting an abortion is being irresponsible. Every young woman teen I've known who's done this has to live with their parents or another family member, making themselves and their child a burden on said family and possibly taxpayers through welfare programs. I'm not saying anyone has to get an abortion in these circumstances, as I think every woman has the right to choose. I'm not saying we shouldn't have welfare programs for struggling families, either. I just don't understand how even the non-religious among us think having children you can't take care of is the responsible thing to do. Completely agree. I don't know how having children at all costs is somehow seen as responsible, noble, or selfless. Every woman should have access to factual information about her option and should have her choices supported. This won't be a popular post and it's a bit Adam ruins everything since it came out on that show, but if you support pedigree dog breeding for pleasure purposes, if you just want a dog, don't get a pedigree dog. If you want a specific type of dog that has a specific size and specific behaviors that you want to guarantee, well, pedigree dogs are the answer, but you need to know those parameters are achieved by breeding at the expense of the health of the animal. Consider perhaps it's not a dog you want after all, you want a disabled dog, a sort of genetically manipulated teddy bear. I get some dogs are bred for purposes other than to accompany humans. That is a grey area, but if it's a companion you want and it can't be a proper dog, maybe don't assume a pedigree dog is a-okay. I saw this one too, and it made me sad for the existence of every bulldog. Dogs were once bred for traits that were utilitarian, but those traits became cosmetic features that were more and more exaggerated, and we have flat-faced dogs that can barely breathe. Young people who get into trouble with credit cards may think that it is a good idea to close each account as they pay it off. On the surface, this eliminates the temptation to spend again. In reality, credit scores take into account how many accounts a person has, how long those accounts have been open, and how much of a person's total credit limit they are currently utilizing. It is better to keep the accounts open and in good standing. If you are worried about spending again, put your cards on ice. Literally, put the card in a glass of water and freeze it. Then, when you want to use it, you have to wait for it to thaw first, which gives you time to assess how much you really need to make that purchase. That isn't always the case though, because when you're trying to do things like take out home loans, any open credit accounts you have access to are considered a possible debt. For example, you may have 50k sitting in the bank and have a 20k limit on a card you've never used. You now only have 30k in assets on paper there. Oh boy, spend an hour or two driving on the autobahn and you'll see irresponsible behavior. Switching lanes without blinking right in front of a sports car speeding along at 170 miles per hour? Sure, why not? Oh, you have kids in the back? Well, gotta get them to football practice quickly. Going 170 miles per hour when traffic is clearly jamming because everyone wants to go home? Sure. Riding my bumper when there are roughly 300,000 cars right in front of me that don't move any quicker than me, then overtaking me on the road shoulder just to stay right in front for me for the rest of the trip? Well, now you will arrive roughly 0.01 seconds earlier. This also describes every US interstate highway. Checking or getting gas when the gauge is 1/8 low. I'm starting to think that among my buddies, I'm the only one who gets gas when the meter is at 1/4. I carpool with them and most of the time the gas meter is on E. I pay for gas during our carpool, so I don't get the logic why they procrastinate getting gas then panic on a traffic freeway that they are going to run out on gas. I carpool. Well, that's no good. You should use a toilet. Not being involved in politics. A lot of my friends almost take pride in their political ignorance. Taxes and laws apply to mostly everyone, whether or not you stay informed or vote. This, I've heard a couple of people say, just doesn't affect me or my life, and it's baffling. Going to the bar without money. I'm friends with many bar staff, and it's surprising how many people, I live in a college town, come to the bar and don't have enough money for a $5 cover. Yeah, I'm not a fan of cover either, which is an issue for another thread, but if you complain cause you can't afford cover, you've made a bad decision to go to a bar. Putting a hot pan under the faucet. If that water isn't hot, it will warp. Even if it doesn't noticeably warp, it won't properly distribute heat again. Holy frick, this is the first useful one to me. Didn't know this at all. Most other replies are quite obviously irresponsible, but this isn't something I have thought about. Having unprotected sex. I have seen so many of my friends and co-workers bragging about hooking up with this hot girl and how it was awesome and not using protection. Then later asking me to cover a shift because they have to go get checked. Or worse, they start complaining to me about how hard it is to raise a kid with a crazy baby mama. I'm like, you could be found this out and avoided this had you just worn a rubber. SMH. When people adopt pets represented in popular culture, such as buying clownfish when Finding Nemo came out or pugs when Men in Black came out, It's a living animal, not a toy from an animated cartoon. Many of the pet shops near me refuse to adopt out pets around Christmas time due to the amounts of people who will get their kids a puppy, etc. only to bring it back like a month later because it's too much work. Spending tons of money on essential oils for the health benefits. Really buying any snake oil product for health, well-being, or weight loss. I like some essential oils for a few of their practical benefits, but they are not magical cure-alls. Tea tree oil, for instance, is great for smelly feet, lice treatment, and getting moldy smell out of wet clothes, but it is not going to cure cancer. Lavender oil smells great on a pillow and in a bath, and is also good for smelly feet, but it does not reverse psoriatic arthritis. Peppermint oil is fantastic for stopping migraines for some people, but you aren't going to eliminate all the toxins in your home's air by spritzing it on your air ducts every full moon while naked. Additionally, essential oils can be dangerous to pets even in tiny doses, and toxic to humans if ingested or overly concentrated. Cosleeping with infants and young children. In my line of work, I see 2-3 infants children per week who are seriously fatally injured because of it. The bonding is not worth the risk in my opinion. One may argue that while driving, offering right of way to someone who clearly is not entitled screws up all the rules. Sometimes people are waving go ahead in a car with tinted windows so no one can tell, or backing away into a blind spot to let someone in. It's nice and all, but unexpected behavior causes accidents. If it's your turn to go, go. If you're passing someone, get on with it. Getting coffee at Tim Hortons every day wastes hundreds of dollars a year. Get a big can of instant. Lasts about 3 months for $15. Always dodging blame when you are legitimately at fault, or not owning up to a mistake. It is literally irresponsibility, and it's something children do. In adults, I just can't stand it. Grow up and try to be a better person. Always being low on cash, even when they get raises and added income. You'd think they would budget the extra cash so they wouldn't be in the red all the time, but some people just can't think like that. Paying for all your kids' stuff. I have friends in college who have never had a serious job and just spend all their parents' money. These kids are so spoiled and don't understand personal responsibility. Most things we do throughout the day, unless you live your life like a flawless machine, I am certain there is at least one thing you are doing that could be considered irresponsible. From a cyclist or pedestrian's point of view, it's any driver who fails to give non-drivers the amount of space time they need to get by safely on the road, especially when said car drivers have small kids in their car. I'm routinely stunned by the number of mothers, fathers and other presumably responsible people that I see blithely putting pedestrians and cyclists' lives at risk by cutting them off, speeding at them, failing to yield, and all the other little BS that they do without even realizing it, smiling away like they haven't just almost put another human being in hospital. It really winds me up. Sorry for the rant. Starting a family because you've been on a relationship for a while. You're at that age. If you are planning on having a family with your partner, make sure you are well acquainted with their bad side, and vice versa. Children deserve parents who are emotionally mature and responsible. The highs of budding love and societal pressure can blind people to their partner's problem. Once you've both learned how to resolve issues and work on the personal flaws you probably never knew you had, then you should have kids. Having children only magnifies your personal flaws and relationship problems you try to sweep under the rug. It boggles my mind when people get married quick and young and then get pregnant as fast as possible. I know so many Mormon friends and family that got married after only knowing their partner for 6 months or less, and then got pregnant during the honeymoon. Rushing through it is not a good recipe for building a solid relationship and family foundation. Not saving for retirement as soon as you are financially stable enough to start. This is the first response I've seen that fits the people don't realize part fully. I'm over 50 and part of my retirement planning is hoping for a massive heart attack. I'm making a major catch-up effort now, but it would have been better to be doing more than the get the company match 401k level in my 30s. 401k was not a common thing yet in my 20s. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.